podcast today is rolling along. Man, we have got a very, very great episode. A little different because we have the guys on who run the Honeytree Meadery in Nashville, and we're going to be talking to them. But first off, got to bring in the Chancellor of Craft Beer. He is Scott Touron. I'm Steve Sullivan. How are you, man?
What's up, man? A little late to the podcast. Apologies, everyone. Having technical difficulties over here, but we are limping along on my phone.
Well, Scott, who do we have here today from the Honeytree Meadery?
We've got Ross and Dru from Honeytree Meadery, who we reached out to, maybe a month ago or so? And then we got to meet you about 2 weeks ago. Steve and I stopped in and just to make sure we met you before you guys came on. And Ross, I had met you at the Prez Beer Fest. Steve may have as well.
That's right. Yep. That's always a wild time there.
It was great, man. I think we left your table and walked over and talked to the foamy heads, and they were asking us about some of the best stuff we had in there. And the first thing I said was Honeytree Meadery right here. The table was it was right there. First thing I said, and it's on camera. You can go back and look.
Let's go. So
Yeah.
get to be on that podcast. They were like, when Shane came up to me earlier that day, he's like, "All right, you got to stop by the booth. I gotta have an interview with you." And I was like, "Oh, for sure, yeah, no worries, yeah, of course." And then you know how it is. I was working my booth in the VIP section, and I didn't get a chance to get over there in time before it closed up. So
those guys are cool. We've met them out a few times. They're really cool dudes, man. We like those guys a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
For quite a while.
I was saying before we went on that that was my first time that I had you guys been able to taste the great stuff at Honeytree Meadery at the Preds Fest, and then about a month or so ago when I went into your location with Scott, and we had it too. But you guys have a very unique story, I think, as to how you began this thing. And Ross, I want to begin with you because you're the guy that you're the owner, and I know Dru, you're involved in that too. But can you really describe what Honeytree Meadery is for people who they've never been? Maybe they live in Nashville, they've never been, or people that are coming to Nashville and they want to try something different, and you're gonna say, what is the Honeytree Meadery?
Definitely the perfect place to try something different and fun and unique for sure. So Mead is the oldest fermented beverage known to man. The same way sake is made from rice and beer is made from grains, tequila is made from agave, mead is made from honey, right? So it's three ingredients at its core, like a standard traditional mead is three ingredients, water and honey mixed together, yeast is added to that to ferment the sugars. So it's all of our meads are around 12% alcohol by volume, but you can really do anything with it. So we have some meads that are 20% ABV. We have some meads that are 6% ABV, and they're chilled and carbonated, so they're more like a spritzer seltzer vibe. We also have full service bar too, so we're making cocktails with mead subbed out for one of the ingredients. So that's something really unique that we do here as well. Honeytree's kind of like it's sort of like a beehive got taken over by Vikings in a way. It's super cool. It's not like super in your face Viking stuff, but it's like it's very fun. It's very unique. You could spend like 3 days here and probably not see everything that we have here, no doubt. There's like 10,000 board games. We won Nashville's best patio Nashville scene 2 years in a row. So we've got a really cool stage out back and a pergola and a greenhouse area. Obviously, we've got the Burger Boys out front, and that's kind of brought a whole cool new element in for us here too. So yeah, it's a very fun, unique experience. It really connects you to nature. We're basically taking honey right out of a beehive and putting it in our tanks and fermenting it. So it's definitely like at our core, the core mission is save bees with booze, basically.
So Ross, I'm going to ask you a couple of obvious questions that I know you've been asked before, so forgive me. But if we don't ask them, people are going to go, how come you didn't ask that?
Yeah,
so
we're going to educate some people too along the way.
Yeah, we're going to educate some people. So you're a long-time beekeeper, which obviously coincides with a lot of the offerings at the meadery. So it's almost like perfect for you, right?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, 100%. We got our start really like backyard beekeeping and like kitchen beer brewing. So and it was kind of like it all just kind of happened on its own. It's like it made itself really. So obviously Drew and I were roommates back then, still at that point, and so yeah, when still working at the pharmacy back then too. So it just kind of became one of those things. We just did it over and over and over again until we finally started getting good at it. I eventually got a job hired on as a beekeeper for a local brewery here in town, Little Harpeth Brewing, and they had like a little pilot brewing system there for any of their employees could make beer on this little pilot system. So I eventually worked my way up into where I could start brewing on the little pilot system, and they finally were like, oh, well, we're dissolving the beekeeping program, but we definitely want to hire you as a brewer. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, like working as like in like a large scale alcohol manufacturing facility. So I did that for quite a few years. And, during that time was when I started making mead. Full disclosure, I got super into Norse mythology at one point, and I was like half the stories in there are centered around mead. And I was like, oh, mead. I'd had mead before, but I didn't really think about, like, damn, I'm getting like 60 gallons of honey a year out of my harvest from my hives. I was like, I have so much honey. I was like, I'm going to try making mead. And yeah, so my first few batches in my basement did not come out well at all. So they ended up going down the drain.
What goes wrong with it early on with mead, and maybe it's some of the same things that goes wrong with like beer when you're making it?
The one of the biggest problems, A, is not having cleaned and sanitized equipment, and B, if your yeast gets stressed out, it's gonna make your stuff taste weird. So that's what happened with mine. I was not familiar with using wine yeast or making mead or anything at all, and so yeah, my first couple batches were pretty weird. I'll never forget the way my first one tastes. It was like burnt tires or something. It was so bad. It was
Not
so
what you were
bad.
going for?
No, sir. Nope. So that one went down the drain, and then I finally started getting into using beer yeast into making the meads, and that's when I really started to make some really tasty stuff. Zimmergy magazine, I'll never forget this. Zimmergy magazine had this big like experiment that they did, and they had 20 different honeys that they made 1 gallon batches of mead with, and they used the same yeast for every single one. And then they had 20 different 1 gallon batches that they made with the same honey and 20 different kinds of beer yeast. And they had this huge like judging panel, and the judges ranked all the meads on there, and they gave like their tasting notes and what they liked about it and what they didn't like about it. So the yeast that scored the highest from all of the judges were the yeast that I went out and bought and started using to make the meads with. And that's when I really started to hit the stride and was like making stuff that was real yummy. And yeah, and then it was probably like 2016, 2017, we came up with the idea for Honeytree, and just kind of never really looked back from there.
So, here's another obvious question. How many
Yeah.
times have you been stung over the years?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I get asked that question pretty often.
Yeah,
I mean, like thousands, man.
Countless.
right.
Thousands of times.
So many
Yeah,
times.
it's like, 'cause
I couldn't go the podcast without asking that question, even though I'm sure you probably get asked it at least, how many times a week. But I'm like, that's the obvious question. Got to ask that one, right?
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
It's a lot easier to work the hives without gloves on. So, I would start the day without gloves, and after like 10 stings, I'd finally have to put gloves on because I could like hardly move my fingers anymore, But I
They all
mean,
swollen up on
you
you.
get stung like,
Oh, yeah.
you could be like
Yeah.
driving home and you don't realize there's a bee in your car and you get stung. I've been stung on my face like more times than I can count.
So you both, so yeah, and so you
To answer
both
your
are involved.
next question, it always hurts. It never like,
Yeah.
you're used to it, right? No,
No.
it always hurts.
Every time.
You just
Every
play in
time.
pain, huh? You just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You play through the pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you put honey on your stings, it helps the swelling go down, and it really is like a natural cure for it.
A little bit of irony, don't you think?
Now you
Hey,
both are involved with the colonies, the beehives that are located in East Nashville, and you have two locations where you harvest all the honey. Can you both talk about what you do, and what your involvement is with each of that?
So we've been lucky enough to where we pretty much have a full-time beekeeper on staff now. And he helps manage the hives for us just because we're so busy that we just can't get out there as much as we'd like to. But our best yard is in Ashland City. That's really where we've got a decent amount of acreage out there that some good friends of ours let us use. And yeah, I mean, the honey out there is amazing, and it's in the middle of nowhere. You know, you've really got to fight the ticks to be out there, but I mean, it's just amazing. Every time we've ever gone out there, we come back, and it's not if you have ticks on you, it's how many you have on you, you know. So you layer up as much as possible, you know.
Being that like you've got multiple locations, can the honey, and I guess it is, maybe it's an obvious question, be different because you got different bees and you've got different flowers in those areas too? Okay.
Absolutely. So your location and your time of year that you harvest make up, you know, a huge amount of what that honey is going to taste like. But even if you harvest the same time of year from the same location, that honey is going to taste different every time. There was a few years ago, our Ashland City yard, I don't know who it was, but somebody in the area had a massive amount of honeysuckle, and all of our honey tasted like honeysuckle, and it was so good.
Oh,
And we
wow.
were so excited for the next year. We go back and harvest the exact same day the next year. Didn't taste like honeysuckle at all, you know. So whoever had this giant honeysuckle bush, they pulled it out, you know. So say that it's hyper seasonal and hyper local.
So, Drew, talk about your background a little bit. We heard from Ross there and what he's done and along the way. Tell us, and you guys are longtime friends. Tell us what got you into the meadery.
Yeah, so you know, we were like he was saying, we were roommates for years. He and I were bartending together at pharmacy, and it was one of those things where, you know, as he became more and more involved at Little Harpeth, the more and more we started talking of, hey, you know, this could really be a thing, you know. And at the time, the owner of Little Harpeth was a certified BJCP mead judge. So
Say that
while
5 times fast.
I know, right? So while we are secretly making these mead recipes, we were lucky enough to have, you know, his boss, the owner of Little Harpeth, both excited about the project and judging the meads that we were making. So it was really cool for us in that process, to where it's not like we were just kind of, you know, shooting for the stars. We were able to really spend a couple of years dialing in recipes and all that kind of stuff because we had a legit judge checking all of our stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And still to this day, we're pretty sure through our research that we're the first meadery in the country and potentially the world to commercially make all of our mead with beer yeast instead of wine yeast.
Wow.
So
Okay.
fundamentally, we're changing the game, you know. And it was one of those things for us where Ross was saying that, you know, we would like brew in our kitchens, and that's really what we did, where we would throw these parties and, you know, we'd be brewing in the kitchen. And finally it got to the point where, you know, we were like, all right, we need to take this to the next level and start being a little more serious about this, because we're throwing these parties and everybody's having a good time. There was one time one of our buddies threw an onion in the wort, you know, while we're making this beer, and he's like, oh, it'll be great. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to drink this beer that's got onion in it, you know? So it was really cool for us to kind of come into it. And, you know, we were keeping bees in our backyard. So our backyard was not a backyard at all. It was a driveway. So we had 2 hives in our driveway of the house where we were renting. And, you know, it was just one of those things where we'd harvest the honey and we'd experiment with mead. So we had this really cool opportunity to where, you know, we didn't have the expenses of buying random honey. we were able to harvest our own, use our own, and really take our time making sure that we were making a new product, because a lot of the meads that we were trying, we didn't really like, they were too sweet, they were syrupy in texture. So we wanted to try and rewrite what mead was capable of, because as we got more and more into the beekeeping community, the more we saw that it's really hard to be a beekeeper for a living. So we wanted to try and make a new spin on mead so that we were able to come up with a better way to fund beekeepers and to buy more honey from them and turn it into a premium product so that we could buy their honey at a premium. So, it was this really cool organic, starting from the ground up mentality.
How big is the meadery business, do you think, across the United States right now?
Pretty small.
Yeah.
Pretty small, no doubt.
Yeah, why don't they pop up like breweries do? It's just harder to do and harder to maintain?
Yep.
It is more expensive to buy honey and whatnot than it is to buy grain and whatever, just to have it mill it yourself and everything. But it's also like half of what we do is educating people on what mead is. It's not as popular as beer. It kind of died out like in the Renaissance era. It was really popular, and it was like the drink of the people. You go to any pub, anywhere, get a mug of mead or whatnot. But as even back then, as honey became less available and more expensive, like ale and wines kind of started to take over. So, back in Renaissance times, that's kind of when it started dying out of popularity. In Europe, it's not like that. Mead is really popular over there still to this day. But it just like in American culture, it just hadn't really like made like that huge resurgence. And it was probably, I don't know, before COVID, they were estimating that there was like 1 to 2 new meaderies opening a day. And then COVID just kind of killed everything at that point. Even some of like our favorite meaderies are like downsizing a little bit, and like they're kind of having to pivot and do new, different creative things to try to like, keep mead in the forefront.
Before we go much further, and again, because I was late to the podcast, I don't know if you can see this, I've got a bottle of your Honeytree bouquet.
Is that bouquet toss?
Yeah. Oh my God. It is so good, dude. I'm sipping over like this. It's like it's named appropriately. It's really damn good. And I've had it chilled in the wine fridge downstairs, so it's kind of got a little chill to it, but not too much. Is that awesome? Kind of how you would serve some of these meads anyway? Yeah. Does it vary like it would on wine?
It does vary. I mean, we serve it here like cellar temp ish, like 55, 60 degrees. Obviously the low ABV chilled carbonated ones, those are served like ice cold. But yeah, it's mostly a preference. Most people like it cold and chilled. But you do get like more of the flavor when you drink it room temperature, but it can be drank room temp like a red wine for sure. Yeah, but it is sort of a preference thing. We've gotten to the point where it's like, hey, however you want to drink it, just drink it.
And of course, in the summer, it's like the hotter out it is, the more people want cold drinks, Yep. So if it's just really hot out one day, we'll kick the temperature down a couple of degrees on the cooler, And so the bouquet toss in particular, there's a whole backstory to mead in the wedding culture. Have you ever heard where the term honeymoon comes from?
I don't believe so. I've heard the term honeymoon, but I don't know the rest of it though.
It comes from mead. So
okay.
Ross is really good at telling the story. I'll let him tell it, but it comes from mead.
Well, so in ancient times, before they knew what yeast was or alcohol or anything for that matter, they just thought that mead was like this enchanted beverage that instantly turned you into a poet and a scholar when you drank it. You immediately became incredibly attractive to the opposite sex, and you became incredibly fertile and whatnot. So they would send off newlywed couples for a moon cycle with jugs of honey wine, like enough honey wine to get through the moon cycle, and in hopes of like procreating and whatnot. And so for a moon cycle and the honey wine came the term honeymoon.
Could you imagine if honeymoons were still a month long? Like, I feel like now they're like for like 3 days now,
Yeah,
It's like, all right, honeymoon's over. All right, back to work,
that's
Great.
That's another phrase too, right? Honeymoon's over. We got to get back to it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's so funny because in those times, the bride and groom didn't really know each other because a lot of the times the weddings were predetermined. So it's
Right.
like after that month of being alone and drinking with your partner, you're
Yeah.
going to figure out if you like them or not real quick,
Yeah.
Or
We
until you
got to
run
make
out of
this
meat.
work.
Yeah, you run out of meat. This guy's not as funny as he once was, or what he thought he was.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so funny.
Turtle is he?
So that's a cool one. You hear that saying, but
That's-
nobody really knows that it actually comes from mead.
I love it.
That is really cool.
So I learned today also that there is a difference between mead and honey wine. Mead is fermented honey. Honey wine is wine with honey in it.
Wow. Okay.
Really.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily synonymous. They just maybe people used it in the wrong way, maybe
Right.
the term in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Here's a question along those lines. What are some other misconceptions about mead? Maybe it's the people just don't know what it is, haven't tried it. Remember the commercial, the Bud Light commercial? You've probably been asked this question a million times, right? Oh, I've got this new mead I'm working on, and the guy drops them through the floor.
Yeah. You will not believe how much that commercial helped us.
Yeah.
It helped us so much. We, for months, were like, thank you, Bud Light, for the free advertising. Because there was so many people that were like, yeah, I heard this Bud Light commercial talking about mead, and we wanted to come check it out. They thought they were making fun of us, and actually, they were just bringing us tons of people. It was so funny. So I would say, hands down, the biggest misconception is that all mead is super sweet. Just like beer, there is hundreds of different kinds of beers and varieties and all these different categories and all this kind of stuff. Back from my beer tending days, when I always looked at it as like a tree of possibilities. Is, okay, what do you like? What's your main flavor profile? And then how far in an outward branch can I experiment with you and try to find something new that you might like, And mead is the same way. Like Ross was saying, we go from 6% to 20% on the ABV. And
Yeah.
so our sweetness levels are all over the place. Our flavors are all over the place. So for you folks listening at home, if you have had a mead that is too sweet and you did not like, give it another try. They are not all super sweet. We don't like the super sweet stuff. Even our 20%er is more on the dry side than vast majority of meads out on the market for sure. So that's the first one I would say, no doubt.
Fantastic.
How often, sorry, Scott, how often do you get new people that come in and the first thing they do, you can see they're looking at the board, they've never been before, and they're just kind of lost going, what is it that I should get?
Yes.
What's the direction for them?
The first thing we do is give you a taste of our basic batch. So instead of it just being this, looming board with all these possibilities lined up in front of you, instead we say, hey, let's share a little bit of basic batch, let's drink some and we'll talk about it, And it's so funny to see with some folks, the more possibilities you give them, the more excited they get. And some people, the more possibilities you give them, the more they just like close up and they're like, you are giving me too many options. This is too many options. I cannot
Overload.
handle this, Yeah, exactly. So it's all about, just the constant education of what we're doing, what we're capable of, what our product is, capable of as far as depths and ranges and sweetnesses, and just trying to tell them what it is. Because we could use Costco honey for all of our stuff and it would be fine. But we make sure that we only use Tennessee honey from our own bees or beekeepers we personally know. So we're connecting people with either the state they live in or the state that they're visiting and making sure that they know that, this isn't just, just another alcohol. We really are trying to save bees with booze. because we know the beekeepers and we're buying it at a premium from them. And we make sure that we're making something for everybody. So keep trying stuff because we have something that you like, you know. We just got to find your right flavor profile.
You mentioned something that it made me think of ciders just a few minutes ago about talking about how sweet they are. So we've been over to Cyanide a couple of times, and we've had Grayson on a couple of times, and it's the same thing in the sense where it's not that super sweet stuff anymore. It's got that dryness to it, and it sold me like, okay, I get this other side of it now. This is the stuff I like now. Same thing with the mead for me. It's like, okay, I like that dry side. That sweet stuff has gone away. We don't need that. It reminded me of that.
Yeah,
Side
and
note,
I had
we
the
absolutely love Grayson.
yeah.
We love him to death. We love Crazy Gnome. We love Cyanide. That's so cool that he's doing that. Big shout out to him. He's a total sweetheart.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mentioned what Scott's drinking right now. I had at your at the meadery a few weeks ago, and I also had the little batch, and I liked them both. I mean, they were really, really good. So, yeah, very enjoyable.
I did manage to pick up another bottle. It's downstairs. I think it was the Signature Series. Is that what it's called? But for Steve, I just couldn't meet up with him to give it to him since yesterday, so we couldn't quite. But I had one for him, so we'll have some more.
Yeah, sure. You were
Yeah.
gonna give him the bottle. Sure. All
Yeah,
right.
you know how it goes.
That one's being chilled in the wine fridge too.
There you go.
Let me tell you about my first experience in Honeytree. So Steve and I have been recently, and that was my second time. First time I went in there by myself, and part of it was to kind of hit every brewery in town, right? Write something about them. And you guys were on the list, and I went over there, and I got a flight. I go, here's the best way to do it. We're flight guys. We're beer drinking flight guys, and you guys had a flight, and it was amazing. And one of them, this was back in the fall. One of them was served like hot, like a wintry kind of winter drink, and it was awesome. And I left there, and I must have told 50 people how great this was. I'm not kidding. And I was like, you got to go to Honeytree. You got to. And it was just blew my mind how cool everything was and how good all the meads were. And we'll talk more about what you guys do there. But my experience was I couldn't tell enough people because I had been by myself and nobody had been yet. And I'm like, you got to go. And I've continued to talk about it since then. So just shout out to you guys.
Wow, we love that. Thank you. Yeah, that hot one is our mulled mead. So it's the bouquet toss that you're drinking right now as the base. And we heat it up with mulling spices. So cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom, allspice, clove.
Yes.
And it gets everybody through the winter for sure,
I think we're gonna rename it the hot one.
Yeah. Nobody can remember.
It's like he's coming like I like the hot one. Okay, yes, we got you.
right.
I just remember it being hot, right? It was the best, and the flavoring was so damn good too. It just reminded me. I'm from upstate New York, and we used to have these winter drinks. We just serve them hot, and you put like cinnamon candies in them and like a cinnamon stick or something, and everybody calls it something different. And it reminded me of that. We called it wassail back then. But
okay.
Oh yeah. It's kind of this. It's kind of really similar. It's the same thing basically.
Well, and our regulars, everybody that knows about it, it's like before a snowstorm comes, they stock up on mulled mead ahead of time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like, milk and bread. That's out. We need 4 bottles of mulled mead in the house ready to go.
Keeps you warm from the inside.
Yep, exactly.
One thing that stands out with the both of you guys is the passion that you have in talking about the mead. And I'm curious, in Ross, you worked at Little Harpeth. What does this bring a new level of excitement for you doing this compared to where you work? Not to say you didn't like that area or like that profession, but is this a more challenging venture for you than where you were before? And certainly, Dru, you can follow up with that as well after him.
Oh, no doubt, man. Because we're totally uncharted territory, and it's like every time I have to integrate a new piece into the system, or I have to make a new recipe or something, it's like weeks and weeks and like months of like researching and trial and error and bench trials, and it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. Like it's always evolving too. We're always trying to improve the quality of the product and still keep the integrity of it. So like there's a really fine balance there as well. We don't use sulfites, so I have to come up with other stuff to use too. And there's basically no options out there. So I'm like having to go back to the drawing board. I work really closely with several different laboratories. And so it's a constantly evolving thing. It like takes a mind of its own sometimes too. So it's incredibly challenging, and it's there's still gaps in my knowledge base, that I don't always necessarily see. So I'm having to reach out and figure out like, okay, what am I doing wrong? It's very humbling sometimes too, where it's like every day I'm like, okay, I messed this up. Oops. So
Yeah.
just kind of having the ability to like, you gotta have that humility and look inward and see like, okay, I did this wrong. I learn from it, move on.
Who are your guinea
Yeah, no
pigs
doubt.
when you guys are trying new stuff or experimenting with new things, and you just walk out? You
Each other.
is that
Yeah.
right?
Each other.
For you do one, hey,
100%. Yes, no doubt. It starts with us, and then it goes to the staff,
okay.
and then it goes to our regulars, and then it goes to the public. You know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah.
like if it made it past us and then the staff, our regulars come in and we're like, hey, come here, come try this. Tell us what you think about this. It's not available yet, but what do you think?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that happened to us after we had a real big tornado here in 2020. For those that don't know, Nashville was directly hit by a huge tornado in 2020, and our facility was closed for months, and that was in tandem with COVID. So we kind of had this opportunity to, hey, if there's anything that we need to reset and kind of do differently, now's our chance. So we spent months reaching out to meaderies all over the country saying, hey, we're using beer yeast. Have you ever messed with it? Do you have any advice for us? So-and-so. And every single meadery was like, you are on your own. We have never heard of anybody using beer yeast. Let us know how it goes, but good luck, because we don't know what to tell you. So it really is, it's no joke. It really is new territory, 100%, with vast majority of our stuff, for sure.
Was your building and part of that tornado when it hit? Did you suffer any damage in that? And
We sure did. We
Oh,
sure
wow.
did. Basement, the across the street from us, the famous venue, Basement East, was completely destroyed. We had 13 holes in our roof. We had the HVAC system completely destroyed. Our back patio completely destroyed. We had no power for a month. So that was a really interesting time for us to kind of reset and see what was, what we could change and what kind of retooling we could do. And not 2 weeks after the tornado, that was right when the COVID lockdown started.
Yep.
So here Ross and I are, rebuilding Honeytree, getting semi trucks full of materials and lumber delivered to the building while everybody else is in lockdown at their home. So our friends would constantly pull us aside and be like, are you guys okay? Like, what are you doing spending all this money? Like everybody else is like not sure what's going on, and Ross and I were just doubling down over and over. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys see the similarity between brewing beer and brewing mead. Is it called brewing mead too? I keep saying that. Is it brewing mead?
Yeah, we'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take
Okay.
that.
Yeah. There's
I
only
kinda
so
know how
many
long
things we can rewrite,
At least if you say the word, the people get the gist, right? I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Does it take longer to ferment because there's probably more sugar in mead, and you're using? I guess you guys were using the honey, so does it take longer to ferment, say, or even make mead than it does beer?
Definitely. Oh yeah. So it's like typically 2 weeks in the primary fermentation process, and then we transfer from our fermenters into like a secondary like conditioning tank, and it's usually like another like 3 months after that until it's totally ready. Usually once it's clear, that's when we start packaging it and selling it and everything, and that's about typically how long it takes. So if we had more time, we would like it to age longer, because it just as it ages, it tastes better. But we sell through it so fast. We're selling through a tank a month basically. So
Yeah. And obviously because it takes longer, you've got to think that much further out for, say, seasonal things or the hot one, all right? You got to have that one ready for the fall.
that one's on the schedule for 2 weeks from now, actually, because we release it every year on Halloween.
Okay.
And So yeah, we've already started planning it out. Like my brew calendar is 3 months ahead. So yeah, and we've got our bottle membership club. That one's really tricky because we have a new mead that goes out to the bottle membership clubs, the bottle membership members every 3 months, and that's like basically how long it takes to make a batch. So we're basically, as we're bottling the batch to send out for the next quarter, we're starting the next batch for the next.
Okay.
So it's like this like super fine like dance that we have to do once every 3 months for the membership meets. It's super cool because the membership meets are only exclusive to membership. So like most of the staff doesn't even get to try the membership meets. They get packaged and shipped out, and it's just exclusive for the members. But that's a very, like I was saying, there's a super fine line of like having to like, okay, the tank's empty, it has to get filled up literally the next day.
You got no time to wait.
Yeah. No, and how he was talking about how we release the mulled mead Halloween every year. Our regulars pretty much give us death threats as soon as it starts getting cold outside of like, where is the mulled mead? Release the mulled mead, and we're like, sorry, it's Halloween, y'all. That's when we release it. And they're
You know the
ready.
date.
First day, it's like,
You guys know.
where is it, guys?
right. Yeah, exactly. It's sorry, we love you. That's just when it comes out. They're like, right. Yeah.
Can you guys talk a little bit more about that? It's on your website, and if you want to give out your website, by the way, where people can find you.
Honeytreemeadery.com.
Yeah, and so there's information on there about the bottle and honey clubs. Can you really talk more about how that all came about, and how many people really are utilizing that at this point?
So it's a really cool program for us because just like Ross was saying, we do exclusives out of the tasting room all the time where, we'll put something new on and within a weekend it's gone, and our regulars and our diehard fans, they are all over the country. And of course, they've got busy lives. So they would love to try these exclusive meads, but they just come and go so fast that sometimes they don't get the opportunity to. So this was a way for us to kind of give back to our diehard fans of where this is, any mead that you ever get from our bottle club, which releases once a quarter, and we have different packages. So you can get 2 bottles a quarter, 6 bottles a quarter, or 12 bottles a quarter. And whenever you get these meads, they have never been released to the public. It is absolutely exclusive for you as members, 100%. And it's so funny because vast majority of the time, I don't want to say vast majority of the time, but there's been quite a few of them where it's like, this is the best mead we've ever made. And we're not going to release it in the tasting room. It is only for the members. We did our 20% mead is called Beast. And we did a flavored Beast. It was it strawberry or raspberry?
It was like a strawberry tea infused Beast mead.
Yeah, so it was a strawberry Beast, and I mean it was hands down one of the best meads we've ever made. So it was like we almost wanted to like message each member individually and be like, this is the best mead we've ever made. Like, don't be mad at us in 2 years if we release this to the public because it is fire,
That good, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's a really cool way for us to make sure that, our fans all over the country, they get the opportunity wherever you're at to get some of these exclusive ones to where you don't feel like you've got FOMO for not coming in, the weekend we released something special, like anytime our low grav 6% mead called Lil Batch, every time we do our blackberry little batch in the summer, it will not last the weekend. If we put it on Friday, it doesn't matter how much we make, it's gone by Sunday, So it's great, but also in the sense of we want more folks to try it,
Yeah.
So that's a really cool opportunity for us to connect with our folks all over the country.
There's a lot of people in Tennessee that order it too because it is so exclusive. A lot of we do have quite a few regulars that are in the bottle club as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like Every time we see them, they're like, can't believe how crazy it is. It's got a bottle right here that has like its own special label and everything too. You can see it's like holographic and the name's all on the side of it. It's really fun.
Does that get capped out? Does that club get capped out? Or, like, can you only have so many people?
Yep.
All
three tiers are capped out. For anybody listening at home, all 3 tiers are not fully capped out yet. So there's still room in all 3 tiers. But when it's full up, it's full up. And, it's one of those things where every year, all of those members get first right to stay on board. So when those slots are full, the only way you're going to get in is if somebody drops out, until one day we get a larger production facility or something like that, But once it's full, it's full. That's it. You
mentioned different states. Your website showed that you are available in 38 states plus DC. Does that mean, is that distribution? Is that shipping to those states?
Shipping.
Okay.
Yep. So we own the rights to distribute or, to ship to your house in Tennessee. And then the rest of the states are through a company called Vino Shipper. So they hold the distribution, the shipping rights in each one of those states. And you're able to order online through our website, honeytreemeadery.com, and get it shipped straight to your door. So that's a really cool way. And if there's any wineries that are listening that haven't used this yet, we highly recommend it. It's a really easy process, really easy to add on to your website, and a really great way for people to ship product all over the country. It's a good one for us for sure.
Does that company help you navigate the different laws between the states too? Does that take that out of it for you guys? You don't have to do that part?
Takes it out of it. There's a few key states where the laws are really finicky, and they give you the option where it's like, hey, this state is really tough to deal with. If you want to pay all the fines, and if you really want to mess with it, you can, but it's up to you. So there's quite a few states that we have to opt out of because it's just too expensive, or they just flat out don't allow it. Like our neighbor state, Kentucky, they just flat out will not allow us to ship into the state, period. So as much as we love you, our neighbor Kentucky, you gotta drive down here and come hang out with us.
Gotta come to Nashville. That's all right.
Yep.
Hey, I'm curious about something. When we have talked to so many different brewery owners this past year, and Grayson, is certainly one of them. He talked about they just opened up a cidery, and they have talked about so much it's changed in the craft beer industry with seltzers and ciders and things like that. Where do you think Mead fits in to the ever-changing culture of what we're seeing?
It fits in really well because there's so many different things we can do with it. So you had, like you said, like you mentioned the seltzer world, like our answer to that is the Lil Batch series. So 6% ABV, chilled carbonated, and instead of being made from malt liquor or whatever, like White Claw is, like, it's literally mead still. So it's still water, honey, yeast. It's just not 12%, it's 6%, and it's chilled carbonated. And it's honestly, that's our best seller, like hands down. It's really approachable. It's really affordable, and it's so delicious. Personally, my favorite meads are honestly like the Lil Batch or Beast Mead. That's basically all I drink.
Yeah, the lowest or the highest. Well, we want to be chill or we want to be full octane.
Yeah, that's what I started out when I came in. I was like, I'm going to go for the Little Batch first, and then kind of go from there. But are you?
I have two moves, 0 and I have two moves, 0 and 100.
Yeah, right.
Have you guys had an interest from other breweries that maybe they're wanting to also expand into like the mead business, as they're saying, okay, we gotta keep our options open, or maybe offering what you guys do at certain locations? Are you getting that kind of interest in that discussion around Nashville?
I would say it's more so that we have breweries around town that we love collaborating with.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of them saying we want to make mead, because they would have to have a totally separate license, technically we're a winery, because there is no meadery manufacturing license. So technically we fall under a winery license. So what we do with breweries instead is we collaborate with them where they use our honey. So the honey that we pull off of our hives here in town, and we make beer with it. So that's a cool way for us to, keep the community strong, keep us doing fun stuff together. And then when it releases, we sell it out of both of our tap rooms.
Can you talk about what some of those collabs were, or who were they with?
Oh yeah, we did New Heights. They're like really good homies of ours. Probably one of the biggest hits. It was called the Citrus Stinger, and it was a honey lemon shandy. So it was like 3.5% ABV, and we sold it for $5 a glass, and it was just like, we had it the entire summer, and everybody just was tripping over themselves to get it. It was really good. Right now we have on the Vikings Horn. That's a collab we did with Tenfold, and that one's about 9% ABV, and it's a Belgian triple style. Well, let's see, we did one with Bearded Iris. That was a blackberry cream ale. That one was super awesome. I'm trying to think of what we did last year. Everything's such a blur. I'm like, what did we even do last year?
It's like, what day is it today? Much less, what did we do last year? But yeah, that's a really cool opportunity for us to, connect with our friends around town. But that's one of the things is, we come from a beer brewing background. There is no Mead guild either. So we're in the beer, the craft brewers guild and the wine guild. So, we're buddies with everybody. So it's a really cool way for us to work together, because obviously if we had a brewing license, we would do more collabs and stuff like that. So it's a really cool way for us to work with all those folks that, we love so much.
Yeah, it's great. Anytime I see any kind of beer with some local collabs, I'm in, man. Just, and everybody's done it. And you see like a Barrique and a Grist got together. Hell yeah, it's going to be good. You just do.
Yeah, shout out to Barrique, Joel, and Spencer over there. I mean, we have their house pills right now on draft. I mean, it's one of the best Pilsners I've had in my life.
Wow.
And they are just killing it over there.
Mm-hmm.
We love those guys to death. And of course, their sours are just otherworldly. Those guys they're sold to the devil for those sours. I don't know what they did over there. My goodness, they're so good.
What's so funny about that, and we've talked about this many times, is you see, the word sour in beer is got such a range on it. You talk about fruited on one end, and you talk about that Barrique on the other end, and both are good, but they are completely different.
Yes.
Oh,
hey,
man.
Drew, I read an article. Was it the Variety or something, or it was a local interview or something you had done. But anyway, you talked about your business model's a little different than most breweries, as in your tap room is kind of the primary business, right, with distribution kind of being secondary. And I've been in there and I see that because that place is awesome. We've talked about it and how cool it is. And we'll talk some more about the stuff you've got on the menu, but talk about that a little bit. What was that mindset, or was that an easy decision to do? Say, hey, we're going to build this tap room out. We're going to let people come here. That's going to be the business.
Well, it was something for us to where, we had so much experience in the hospitality industry. I mean, we were servers and bartenders our entire adult life, So it was one of those things that we were just so familiar with, and we just love East Nashville and Nashville so much that we really wanted a community hub. And nobody, especially when we first started and still today, so many people don't know what Mead is, or they came across one that they didn't like. So we wanted to focus more so on the tasting room to get people in here and to educate and to change their minds about what Mead is capable of. Because, it's one of those things where, the bars and restaurants around town, they're like, we love that you're local and we think this is really cool. We just don't know how easy it's going to be to sell this product to our guests, which I totally get. When I was working over at pharmacy, it was very cutthroat on what made it onto the draft list. If it wasn't going to move and everybody wasn't into it, you were never going to make the draft list over there, So in that experience of seeing how difficult that was, we really thought that, if we build a community and we focus more on the tasting room and the vibe here and getting people in here, because obviously if somebody comes in and they've never had mead before, and right now we have like 13 different meads on tap, it's way easier for us to educate and to find something that you like versus it being somewhere at a bar or a restaurant where they're like, I've never had mead before, or I came across one I didn't like. I'm just going to get a beer I usually get. So that was one of the main driving factors for that for us. And I will say, if I could go back, I would do it again for sure, because it has definitely worked out for us, teaching the public about what we're doing here.
The next big project is going to be sort of adding in a larger like distribution model. We're looking into contract brewing right now, obviously, because I can't make super large scale things here. I can barely keep up with what's going on in the tasting room and membership needs and whatnot. So yeah, we're looking into contract brewing, and we've got some other irons in the fire, trying to increase our storage capacity here, which will give us an opportunity to make little batch on like a more larger scale, so we can at least try to get it out into the market more, because that's, like we were saying earlier, that's the most approachable one. It's the most affordable. It's basically the same price as any other 6% beer that you're going to be able to find out there. So yeah, we're really, 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 really hopeful that we're going to be able to launch that as soon as possible, because that's going to be really fun, and like, being able to see it out in restaurants and whatnot, especially like on tap. And it's just something that's like, it's so cool and unique and fun. And it's like, it's a mead that basically is like honey wine seltzer spritzer vibe.
Yeah, and people, like you said, when it's hot like this, people want stuff that's refreshing. Oh, let me get that. Let me try that, and then even try something new.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about your tap room, because your menu in there is phenomenal. So you mentioned that mead is versatile. You guys not just serve mead and sell mead by the drink in there. You make cocktails with it. Not to mention you've got, I don't know how many local beers in there. I looked at your menu. I think 99% of it is from Nashville. I mean, it's right here.
Oh yeah.
Spirits, I think wine. You got everybody covered when they come in there.
Yep. Something for everybody for sure. We're lucky enough to have an amazing bar director that is really good at taking a classic cocktail and slightly modifying it with mead or with honey simple syrup, which for any bartenders at home listening right now, instead of making regular simple syrup, take 50-50 honey and basic batch and make your simple syrup out of that, and it will elevate your cocktails to the next level.
I gotta write that down.
I'm ready.
Yes,
I love old fashioned, so I'm thinking of an old fashioned right now.
Yes. So that's one of the things that, we want something for everybody, and we're constantly evolving that program, of how do we make sure that we've got something for everybody while still sneaking honey or mead into those beverages, to give our own little spin on it for sure. Because for the longest time, we only had mead, but now we have our beer license, our liquor license, so we got something for everybody, no doubt.
It's awesome. And you mentioned the back patio. Man, we sat out there. Coming this fall, I'm sure that thing, and I'm sure when the weather's nice, that place is packed. I've not been there at night, but I've seen pictures of it, and there's a nightlife at your place.
It's really nice, yeah.
The live music, we really love. Every Sunday, we do trivia. It's Tuesday night here right now, so we do open mic night. So every single Tuesday night, we do open mic night where local artists come and play some of their new songs and that kind of stuff, which is really cool.
Here every other Friday, so we have fire performing back out on the back patio every other week.
Yeah, we do market takeovers, so we'll have like vendors and farmers from the farmers markets and pop-ups come on the weekends and fully take over the space, and every square inch of the whole property is taken over by vendors selling goods and whatnot, which is such a cool experience. We love any opportunity we can get to connect and share our space with the community, we're all over it for sure. And we briefly mentioned earlier, we have a permanent food truck parked out front called Bad Luck Burger Club. And if you haven't ever heard of them, I mean, it is next level smash burgers. We have to limit ourselves to like 3 a week, you know, like can't have more than 3 burgers a week, you know, we got to limit ourselves, got to stay strong.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. The word apiary. Until I started doing research for you guys, I never heard of an apiary, and put a meaning to the word apiary.
It's just a place where bees are kept. So like an aviary is like got something to do with birds.
Yeah.
Apiary is bees.
Yep.
So it's literally just a yard with bees in it.
Yep.
So it's simple as that.
We
Okay.
used to have our hives in East Nashville. Now we've moved them outside of town a little bit, and we primarily source our bees now are in Ashland City and Whites Creek.
Okay.
So a little bit outside of town, nothing too crazy, like 30 minutes outside of town, but it makes a big difference because it got to the point where when we had a pretty good sized yard in East Nashville, it got to the point where when we would go there to check on the bees, the neighbors would come up to us and say, "Are we doing something wrong? The bees are chasing us around our yard now." It's like, that is not your fault. That is our fault. We have too many bees in your backyard. We need to get them out of here.
That's funny.
So I guess
This
that's
one guy,
Go ahead. No, please.
he literally said, literally, if I'm sitting on my tractor, they chase me around the yard the whole time I'm mowing the yard.
Wow.
Oh man, we got to get these bees out of here with a quickness.
So they do naturally grow, and the colonies naturally grow on their own, and then they have to be separated. So it's kind of one of my questions. So what do you do? Do you have to go in there and find the queen and pull them, take them somewhere else? Or?
Yep, exactly. So you basically you'll split them, and you have to split them so they're far enough apart from each other, because the bees that you take out of the hive will fly back into the old one too. So you have to make sure you get enough bees into the split with the old queen, so that you don't like lose a ton of bees, because they'll go back to their old hive unless you move them to like a completely separate yard. They'll go back to the old hive.
Okay.
Well, and that brings up a very interesting conversation that we have with diehard vegans, that don't want to consume honey because it's an animal byproduct. But if a hive runs out of space, right? So if the worker bees run out of space to put nectar and convert into honey, or if the queen runs out of space to lay eggs, essentially they will swarm and leave. So it is crucial for the beekeeper to come in and monitor the hive, especially during key times of the year where we call it the nectar flow. So in spring and in early fall, we'll have big nectar flows where all of a sudden tons of flowers are blooming at the same time, and those bees are gathering tons of nectar. Well, if that hive that you have set up for them runs out of space, they're out. They'll take as much of that honey as they can, and they'll go look for a new location. So as far as long-term keeping bees in a hive, it's crucial for you to monitor and to pull honey at key times of the year, or you'll lose them.
If someone decided they wanted to start a bee colony, is that something a novice could do to start with? I know bee populations are down, right? That's a problem.
Yes. So the best way I can say it is we love that people are interested in being a beekeeper. We think that it's crucial that we have more beekeepers and not bee havers,
Gotcha.
where there is a lot to learn. And a lot of it, you just got to do it by doing it, But we highly recommend linking up with your closest beekeeping association. Vast majority of them are free or very inexpensive to be a part of, and they are a wealth of information. And a lot of these beekeeping associations, they have mentorship programs, and they have constant advice. And a lot of beekeepers are definitely older in the spectrum of age. So it's one of those things where the best way for them to teach is in person and in the hives. These old boys and girls, they're not making YouTube videos, so it's crucial for your specific area to find beekeepers that have been doing it for years, and they've seen the climate change effects happening in their area, so that way you can go into this with a community behind you, that if you have an issue, you can reach out and have a mentor or have a community that can help you or give you advice. Because no matter how much you learn, beekeeping is constantly evolving due to climate change, and is very specific to your area, because your area will have more pests or a nectar flow at a different time of year, all these different kind of things that are specific to your area, that a beekeeper that's been doing it for 20 years, he'll teach you in a week, instead of you having to spend 2 years losing hives trying to figure out why you lost bees in July every year, So we are extremely connected with TBA, the Tennessee Beekeepers Association, and NABA, the Nashville Area Beekeepers Association, where we do all kinds of seminars and speeches, and are constantly donating our time and product and anything we can do to help these organizations, because they are really cool ways for new and ongoing beekeepers to have a local community to kind of source knowledge and supplies from. Because a lot of times a new beekeeper, they'll just search online for equipment, and they'll get raked over the coals, by a random company charging 3 times as much as they should, when the local beekeeper will tell you, oh no, this is the guy, or this is the website you go to get your supplies, and this is a good source for you to source live bees from as well. Full transparency, we started a new yard, and we wanted to try out a new source for live bees of nukes to try and start this new yard. And by the end of the year, we lost the entire yard.
Oh wow!
Because this was not a good place to source live bees from, and we learned our lesson. And now we told everybody about it, and now that'll help other beekeepers too, make sure that they don't source their nukes from this place. So that kind of stuff, that that kind of knowledge is invaluable when it comes to starting up.
I think this is going to go down as the most educational podcast we've done so far, and I love it.
I
mean, you guys really have a great background in this. I mean, it's fantastic. It really is.
And other than just researching and going into this, we knew nothing. I mean, we've had the mead, and we knew what bees were, and we knew what honey were, but how to make it, how it goes together, completely foreign to us.
We warn people all the time, if you stand at our bar for too long, we're just going to end up educating you about bees. If you're not interested in bees, don't stand at our bar for too long. Go to a table and hang out.
If you don't want to get stung, leave these guys right away.
I love I love even the decor in the tap room, like the tables have got the hives kind of hives, but the cells, what do you call them?
Yep.
Kind of ingrained
in
there.
The honeycombs.
Yeah, the honeycombs, and it's just kind of all over the place, and the theme is there throughout, which is awesome. Is there anything Steve and I can do? And I know bees need to be protected, and again, populations are down. What can we do for conservation, or just making sure the bees survive? Can we plant things? Can we leave them alone? What's the thing?
Yeah, if you let your yard overgrow a little bit each year, like if you see clover growing, let it grow for an extra week or two. That will help the bees a lot. I mean, honestly, there's a really cool I can't remember if they're a nonprofit or not, but it's called the Pollinator Protection Program. They do a lot for like beekeeping awareness and pollinator awareness in general, because it's not just honeybees that need help, it's pollinators as a whole. So they do a really good job of raising awareness and raising money to help different like local programs and stuff that try to help save pollinators in general.
Right. So, if you're going to plant pollinators, try to make sure that they're native pollinators. And the biggest one is stop using pesticides in any way, shape, or form on your property that you can get your hand. Like, just don't do it. The United States is one of the only countries in the world where it's allowed for pesticides to have a toxin called neonicotinoid in the pesticide. And they claim that it's fine on bees. It is not. And an interesting thing for people to know is wherever you place a hive, on average, they will source nectar from a 3-mile radius, but they are capable of harvesting within a 10-mile radius. So you can imagine how difficult it is for a beekeeper to place a hive and to be concerned about anyone within a 10-mile radius spraying pesticides on their yard. Ross and I have had on multiple occasions where we have had, and when we used to have hives in East Nashville, where we had a total loss of a hive because they came across a pesticide, brought it into the hive, and killed the whole hive. And at that point, all of the bees obviously are dead, and any of the byproduct that we would have been able to harvest from that hive is all going to the fire. So the honey, the wax, the boxes, it's all useless. We have to burn it all. So that's one of those things that people don't realize how far bees harvest. And even if 1 yard within that 10-mile radius covers their yard in pesticides, you could kill a beehive 7 miles away from your house.
That's incredible. That's all right. So pesticides, don't use any. Steve.
Yep.
Yeah.
Geez,
Yeah.
tell him every time I go
Get
over.
it out of here, Steve.
Don't blame me. I'm not doing it.
I told you I was going to throw it out. I'm going over the next. I'm throwing it out.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I promise.
Yeah. That's the biggest one for sure.
Yeah.
Because planting native pollinators, that's great. But when it comes to that kind of stuff, that's just something that the bees are never going to be able to adapt to. There's nothing we can do as beekeepers to teach them to stay away from a flower that got sprayed by pesticides, because they just don't know.
Right.
Something that works very well instead of pesticides is vinegar and salt mixture and Dawn dish soap. Mix all three of those together and put them in, you can even put it in a spray bottle. And the soap helps the vinegar and salt stay on the plant. You spray the plant with it, and it will be dead the next day.
Okay.
And it's like an all natural, and the Dawn soap will kind of wash away over time, but it works so well, and it doesn't hurt bees. It doesn't hurt pollinators. You're basically like pickling the plants, and especially when it's hot like this outside, you can roast a whole driveway full of weeds in hours just by doing that.
Yep.
Okay. Definitely good information.
Very good information.
Is it normal? Is it okay if one person drinks a whole bottle of this? Is that pretty normal?
Oh, you bet. You bet. Yeah.
Because it's getting done. I wasn't sure if that was a normal thing or because it's getting done.
Yeah, exactly.
We're out there, and I don't know why I got the glass, but anyway.
You're gonna.
That's like the equivalent of 2.5 beers, maybe.
Yeah, and you're gonna clean your house after this,
There you go.
If you got a significant other, they're gonna be stoked. They're like, "Why are you so happy and cleaning the house in the middle of the night?" Like, "Oh, I just drank a bottle of mead."
All right.
One streak going. I'm mixing up a mixture of vinegar and Dawn and salt and gonna put that out tomorrow. And she was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna get to the point where you're talking to bees in your yard. Oh, hello. What can I do for you? You know.
That's funny.
So funny.
There's Bobby. There's Bobby. There's little Susie. You know.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Start naming them. There you go.
Whenever we put bees in a new location, it is amazing the phone calls we get from the owners of the properties, you know, of, oh, I just love how many bees are in my yard and I just want to take care of them and I put out some water for them and this and that, you know, somebody that would normally look at a bee and not think twice. Now
Right.
It's like all their little best friends, you know.
Yeah. They're helping nurture them, you know, and helping kind of keep them alive.
100%.
Hey, for the record, when I'm sitting on my porch and I see bees, I just let them fly around. You know,
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm good.
Love it.
Other than I'm pretty much that way with most bugs out there, unless it's a mosquito. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's, you know, let them be. Just let them be. You
Yeah,
know.
there you go.
Not having mosquitoes. I don't care what they do for the environment. I'm out. I'm out. Not having them.
Yeah, well, probably. I don't know. I don't know if a mosquito conservatory thing exists, but I'm not supporting it. Or conservation thing exists. I'm
Right.
not supporting it. Yeah, you guys are on your own.
Just a shot out there.
Oh.
I think the meat is kicked in.
Did you
The
ever
meat is
hear
kicked in.
of? Yeah, did you ever hear that time where Bill Gates was in this big convention and he was doing a speech about mosquitoes spreading malaria, and he released thousands of mosquitoes into the crowd at this convention, telling these people it shouldn't just be poor people that get bit by mosquitoes and get malaria, which of course he told everybody we made sure all the mosquitoes don't have malaria, but that was like one of those crazy things where it was like, goodness, Bill, you went
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, really.
What
You
is-
made your
what
point
is
there,
up?
didn't you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure everybody went home after that and they're like, all right, we got to help Bill get rid of mosquitoes for malaria.
Yes, whatever he needs.
Yeah.
Guys, is there anything we didn't cover that you guys would love to talk about your business, or just getting the word out there about you guys?
What do you think, Ross?
I'm sure as soon as we're done with the podcast, I'll think of like 100 things.
Well, that's okay. I can help you along here. Where do people find you? Where do we go online to find you first off for people that are interested? All the socials and all that good stuff.
So we're on everything. Every social media platform we're involved in. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. We've got our website. We're constantly updating everything. If you want the most up-to-date stuff, the Instagram is definitely the best and easiest way for us to be putting constant new information out. We put all of our personal emails and phone numbers out there, so always feel free to reach out. Our Google listing, Honeytree Meadery, the phone number, if you call that number, it goes straight to our cell phones. So reach out. We're here for you 100%. The website is the best way to get into the Bottle Club memberships and to sign up for our mead making classes and tours and all that kind of stuff that we're doing here. So I would say Instagram and our website are the best for sure.
And you can buy mead. Yep. And you can buy mead on your website too. You can order on there too.
You bet.
You
bet.
And
all over the
your
country.
location. Let's talk about where your location is.
So we're in East Nashville at 918 Woodland Street. We're open 7 days a week. The food truck, Bad Luck Burger Club, is open 7 days a week as well. So we are a neighborhood staple for sure.
You guys, and even on social media, you guys have a huge following on there. You really do. Like, I've missed the boat on Mead, and I apologize, but I am on this boat now.
Oh, you're stuck with us now, brother.
Oh man, I am a part of this. When I stopped in last fall, I'm sold. I am in. So.
Oh, it's awesome, man.
Good to have you in the fam.
Cheers.
Well, awesome, guys. We appreciate it. Since we've been talking about bees so much, I would have to say we wrap it up and say that's the buzz from Ross and Dru from Honeytree Meadery. How's that?
Love it.
Perfect, man.
We appreciate being on here so much. Thanks for helping us get the word out, and we're here for you boys.
Yeah,
Well,
and
we'll be
likewise,
back.
man. you guys ever want to come on or promote something, just feel free, man. You guys rock, and we love having you on our little team.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Excellent.
That sounds great.
Great. We will be back there soon. We definitely enjoyed the Honeytree Meadery, and we got to get back there soon. So guys, Dru and Ross from Honeytree Meadery, get there, try their stuff. It's fantastic. We appreciate it today. For Scott Touron, I'm Steve Sullivan, and this has been the Brewery Underground Podcast.
Cheers.
Cheers.